What up, guys? Casey Santana here with Chief Entertainment Podcast. Today, I'm going to be delivering something completely new. There's a lot of different reasons why. One, it's something that I am passionate about. It's something that I've spent Ooh, probably the past decade really diving into and just growing in this particular industry. And that's the content creator world, the digital creator space. In the past 2 years, I've developed my podcast. And this originally started with my fitness journey. I started competing in 2015. And with that in mind, I really wanted to show everybody my day to day, what it looked like in and out of the gym, what I was eating. And so, with that said, I kind of want to do the same thing with how I create my content, the updates that we're constantly getting, and got to be on top of. I spend a lot of time on YouTube and different media outlets that focus specifically only on personal branding, on social media marketing, and content creation, including graphic design and understanding just YouTube in general and how to navigate and monetize on there as well. So, with that said, if you guys have been following me for a really long time, whether that's on Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn, those are my cup of teas. Instagram originally is what I used as far as being creative, having fun with it, building a community, whether that was in fitness or in the cannabis space. LinkedIn, I took advantage of that with my 20-year background in corporate banking. Originally started as a teller back in 2003 and went all the way through um, being an officer at the retail branch, going into treasury management, then going into corporate banking. And that was kind of just moving on up. Just took the skills that I had with whatever position I had and tried to make sure that I fulfilled it as best as I could and was able to grow and move up in the industry. Left the bank with an AVP title. So, not so shabby there, but it did make it easier to jump onto LinkedIn when it came to cannabis space. At first, obviously, not something I used in the banking world, but in the cannabis space, it was time to get in there and see who, the founders were behind some of these brands. And to, the one thing I tell people is LinkedIn is the main source or cuts out the middleman. And so if you want to go directly to the source of that brand or that company, that is probably where you'll find them. Lastly, YouTube. My God, thank God for YouTube. You guys may be watching this on YouTube now. It's the only place I put my content, long format, as in regards to long format. But I built my podcast on YouTube. And since then, I think there's been so many different updates, learning how to use it, learning how to understand their algorithms because it's substantially different than the social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. And so we will be diving into that on a monthly basis. I will try to give you guys updates that I get, statistics. If I can get graphs, I will be presenting those as well. But I thought it'd be a good time to provide this information because I've been doing it for so long and I do get a lot of questions as to how do you start a podcast, all the way to different things like that. And so for me, it's always about providing some sort of value. So if you learn something new today, please make sure you subscribe. One or two things, please make sure you subscribe so I'm able to provide this information to you guys regularly. Okay, enough of that. All right, social media updates. Today, we're going to talk about Instagram. Main drivers for Instagram, key things to remember is engagement, shares, and replays. You want to focus on that. Number one, check to make sure IG has categorized your account correctly. Your bio should be written out correctly. If you have too many links as well, to my understanding, that may also stop them from showing your page so much. The main idea with all of these apps is that they want you to stay in their apps as long as possible. Are the tool technically. Keep that in mind. All right. All right, let's get into it. Lots of notes that I took, so I will try to get through them as gracefully as possible. If you guys have a comment or question, you guys can send them to hii@chifa.com or drop them in the comments, and I will run through those comments live, either on Instagram, on our YouTubes. But if you are in the space as far as being a digital creator, a content creator, with visuals, not so much copywriting, jump in. I'd love to hear from you. I feel like we can learn from each other. I know for me particularly, I deep dive on those who focus on this type of content, giving back valuable information like this for people to take it back and apply it is so key. And so I appreciate the videos, or excuse me, the content creators that make these type of videos to where we're able to learn and give back the information in a very quick format, easy to absorb and apply is the best. So I want to do the same for my audience. And if we happen to come across new ones, even better. Okay, my bad. Let's get back to it. Check to make sure IG categorizes your account correctly. Most important, there's an update that happened on a carousels. Most of you may be using it now. It used to allow you to only do 10 static photos. Now you can do 20 static or videos. Per each static video or static post, slide, I should say, you actually can do a different collaboration request, do a different tag, do a different video, and different text. So the way you put that together can be per slide. And basically, it's almost like somebody looking at your camera phone. They really enjoy being able to see that many static videos, or excuse me, static posts plus videos. So if you could do both, I think that will increase a lot of your engagement. Same for music, you'll be able to add any type of music to each slide, and so they can be different so that it gives them a vibe of that moment. You'll see a lot of those carousels in that format for those who want to do like an October dump or September month. A dump of like different things that they've done in the month has been a trend. So you want to try that. Instagram recently mentioned that it's a possibility that they're going to be doing vertical videos as far as being your face fronting, kind of like TikTok, and putting the square as the second option. And I think some people now who focus on vertical videos, who do a lot of reels, have the option to making that as a setting. So when you go to their page, that's the first thing you guys see. And that is because there's a lot of things that reels can do for you. So if or the touch to create reels, I think that is the best way you can go when you're trying to scale your reach. They're also planning to integrate something with Spotify to where you can give them some sort of mood board vibe. This is to give people like an interest of possibly your playlist for the month, maybe even your gym list. They want to change their views to impressions. So, number of times instead of seen, as far as how many times people watch your video. And to my understanding, there's a little bit of a tip for that. A video that's only about 7 to 11 seconds long, which is pretty ideal for the reels, which is they don't want it any longer than 20 seconds, that you actually give it some sort of detailed context. So what you're writing out, the longer it is, the longer that video replays. So the shorter it is, but the longer your description is, the longer they replay that video over and over and over. And Instagram loves to see that. So they love that you're putting a 7 to 20, maybe 18 max second video. But what they're really looking for is what you're writing. And if you can take the time to write out, for example, cooking videos, perfect, super easy. I know I love to cook. If you can get, and it doesn't even have to have high quality, as most of the people I know, I mean, our phones, this is the newest one, slow at getting everything moved over. So eventually this one will go, but the phones have good cameras. So use those, but make sure that you add the recipe on there. And the good thing about it is if you don't want to write it out, you could write out maybe why that recipe is like a tradition for your family or something like that. But so long that people are sitting there reading what you're writing and that video is only 7 to 11 seconds, they're actually replaying that video over and over. And that's what Instagram is basically catching. And they love to see that. See, and that will kind of, the views and impressions go by how people share your video. Again, reels are for you to grow your reach, not so much your followers. Your stories are definitely for your followers. Reels are for you to really reach those non-followers. So for best times suggested, 10 to 12 p.m., 2 to 4 p.m., 8 p.m. And these are internationally. So you figure someplace here, I'm in Cali. If I post something at 10 a.m., 3 hours ahead in Florida, they would see it about 1 p.m. So think about where you're at with that. Sometimes I play around with it. I don't focus too much on that. But interesting enough, the 8 p.m. was something I thought that was odd, but I did get a really good engagement from that. And I think the idea is 10 to 12 people are awake. If they're not working any sort of like 9 to 5 job, then that gives them enough time to wake up and get in there. 12 o'clock is usually lunchtime. So if you are a 9 to 5er, maybe they're taking their break and they're able to get on Instagram. 2 to 4, same thing. I've worked a corporate job for a really long time. And usually the breaks after lunchtime starts around 3 p.m. So if you look at the 2 to 4 p.m., you're either getting people off of work or on that break right before they get off of work. 8 p.m., definitely off of work, most part for those people who aren't working like restaurant jobs or anything like that. But for the most part, people at night, the majority would be able to open up their Instagram. Maybe it's like the end of the night or, they finished dinner and the kids are, I don't know, in the bath or something, and you have a moment to yourself. So you're able to get on. But ideally, 8 p.m. wasn't so bad. Now let's get into stories, reels, and the difference between that. So, best for engaging with your audience as organic as possible. The easiest way to understand that is basically use your stories for BTS. If you have a brand, let's say a beverage brand, and you have a new line coming out, it would be ideal for you to start showing the process of that. And when it's ready, you guys can start doing hard posts on that and making reels. But it is important that you use story to show a lot of behind the scenes and to particularly to engage your existing followers. If your existing followers happens to comment, then you're opening up more engagement there, possibly a sale if it is a product. But mainly a lot of times people want to repost a reel or a static post that they've already posted, and that doesn't really move the needle for stories. It's actually a very lazy I didn't say it, but a lazy strategy, I should say. So if you guys are paying people to run your social medias, keep that in mind. Make sure you're not seeing just random posts of other people's channel in hopes that they would engage those followers. Most likely either already know of that person or vice versa. And so you want to use it to show who you are. If I was an owner of, let's say, this hat, I would, constantly show them the trips that I make to look at the material. I would show them my life a little bit. They only last for 24 hours, and so they're not going to be something that's going to live on there forever, but it does allow your audience and whoever is already existing following you to get to know who you are and what you're doing and what this is all about. Now, if you happen to have a service, then that could be more like you talking about what you're going to be offering or updates that you have coming in the next quarter or something like that, or a membership that you're going to be launching. But ideally, it's for you to show a lot of the BTS. Stories are not for growth. Stories are to generate FOMO, definitely fostering follower loyalty. So again, building some sort of culture. And it's meant to be a quick documentary type vibe. And so your feed should be more of your niche, not your stories. So if you want to reach new people, then that's when you want to amplify how many reels you put out a day, ideally 1 to 3, but if you can't do 1 to 3, at least once a day. That is known for top reach. And here's a good statistic actually. We all like numbers. Brands most use stories 79%. This was just as of last month. Stories came in at 13.3% and post at 17%. So, carousel posts can drive audience engage by 10 to 15% and exceeds the images and the reels. So, stories definitely for BTS, definitely for brands to use as far as, I don't know, maybe you have a sale going on and you're able to do that, but definitely not for a repost of a hard post. Sales will happen in the DM or get them to subscribe to your email list and get them to comment on your stories to get them in your DM. And so to wrap this all around, reels are for you to gain your non-followers. Reels are for you to scale your reach. Stories are for you to build organic loyalty with your current followers, engagement, and some sort of culture community with them. If you can get your existing followers to also share your hard posts and reels, that helps. So if they take your reel and they happen to share it on their story, that can help. However, it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. And depending on what your product or service is, that can really depend on how you utilize that. Something to also keep in mind is hashtags. You either see somebody putting a shitload of hashtags or you see no hashtags. I wouldn't say no hashtags the best, but I would say maybe 20 at the most, and they have to make sense and they have to be relevant. Sometimes, for me at first, I was putting things that I wanted to emphasize a particular word that had something to do with that particular post. So if it was a fitness lifestyle post where it's, I don't know, you can tell that I'm eating something healthy, but I'm out and about, then it would be like good eats, healthy lifestyle. Um, I don't know, just several different things, even like short messagings like work hard, play hard. People do things like that. Work hard, play hard is a very interesting hashtag because if you actually look at each hashtag account before you actually put it on, it may not make sense. So a lot of times I would say find the hashtags that make sense, be consistent with your posts with those hashtags because then they can correlate them to your page. But if you're putting all types of different hashtags, random words like, you know, I think even like the if you know hashtag that doesn't necessarily go on anywhere. If you look at that page specifically, it probably gives you all types of different things. And so if you're somebody that has a brand, a product or a service, you don't want to be creating content, spending time to create content and being bundled in a random, popular page that will not drive any new followers initially to your page. Okay, I think that's all I got for the revisions and updates that I've recently gone over in 2024. For Instagram, again, main drivers of Instagram right now is engagement, shares, and replays. Use your stories for behind the scenes, use your reels to gain and scale your reach. And yeah, get on those carousels, use your collaboration options, make sure you're collaborating with other creators that make sense for your page as well. And that's all I got. There's so many different things that, I can say about Instagram. And I know a lot of people are hesitant about using Instagram sometimes, but one thing I would say is being very organic with the content you have and speaking on things that you have spent tons and tons of times, and I don't mean 1 or 2 years, just a lot of effort in that particular niche that you feel that you could speak on, makes creating content easier. And so for me, I've always spoke on 3 things. Primarily, it's always for me, fitness, nutrition, and cannabis has been the main thing that I have been vocal about on my page. As I am growing my podcaster legs and getting really used to YouTube, again, I am a huge consumer of YouTube. And so I live on there. I don't have cable, mainstream cable, I should say. And so for me, it's always been about YouTube. And so maybe it's a different case for you, but for me, it's always been YouTube. And um I just, there's a lot of things that you can do on YouTube. And once you get to a certain level, you can monetize and you can create membership and communities and be impactful in very many different ways. And so I will be providing all that information to you guys on my podcast journey, how I repurpose my content, maybe even talk about some of this amazing equipment that has been doing me really well in the past 2 years. And so, with that said, guys, that's all I got for you guys today on social media updates for Instagram. If you guys learned something new, 1 or 2 things, please make sure you subscribe so I can continue to do videos like this. And if you like the video, make sure you like it. Comment below if you have any questions. I'll try to get those comments live. That's the new thing I want to start doing, is playing with the live option on YouTube and seeing how that goes. So I appreciate you guys always tuning in. And again, if you have any questions or would like me to dive into something, you can also shoot that to hi@chifa.com. All right, guys, have a good night.